Really? Oh, it's working. Oh, I'm so glad. Oh man, I thought I was gonna have to restart my stream. This has been a running problem for a little bit. Ooh, I'm gonna take down the levels because I know I'm already super loud. Hi. This has been a running issue for my stream for a little bit where like I'll start streaming and I realize like, oh, stuff's actually not working. Hi. How are you guys doing? We are back. It's another Wednesday. It's 7 p.m. It's like 80 something degrees where I live right now, so it's definitely becoming hotter and like drier, and summer is definitely almost here. So, all of that being said, I think we should just move on to what we're working on today, and that is Final Fantasy VII Ramuh. And how do I describe like what I'm doing? For anyone who doesn't play Final Fantasy VII, there are summons, which are they're like really crazy magic spells that you can cast that introduce characters into the fight that you have. And those characters will inflict a certain amount of damage. Usually it's elemental damage. Over the past few weeks, we've been doing the first, second, and third summon, which is Chokamog, Shiva, and Ifrit. And now we're moving on to Ramuh. Ramuh's primary element is electricity or bolt. And yeah, that's the long and short of it. So I guess we could just move on from there. So you can see here in the past few episodes, we have our Chokamog, we have Shiva, and we have Ifrit. You can also see I've done some sketches already. If you've been here for the past couple of weeks, you know I've already sketched out a good dozen thumbnails. And so now that I've already done that, I'm just going to copy canvas. Copy, and then I'm going to go in. Every image that I create is 2000 by 2000 at 300 dpi. I repeat this in every episode because why not? You can't stop me. We're going to go in and we're going to go into canvas. We're going to turn on drawing guide and edit. We're going to make our grid size 250. I really like working with grid sizes for a whole bunch of reasons. As a designer on my team, it's really important that I have grid sizes because it's important to have an idea of what I'm doing spatially, and grids generally are going to help you, even if you don't have a really strong understanding of how they're going to help you. It's just having an understanding how stuff fits in a space, and reference points of a grid will just help you map things out and their spatial relationships much easier. So especially if you're a younger artist, I highly recommend that you do all of your sketches on a grid, and you just kind of create rules for yourself, such as I want the main elements of my character to stay within sort of this inside grid, or inside box that I have here. And that box that I'm talking about is these lines. This over here, right? So I'm trying to keep all of the main elements of his body and his staff within that space. And then I could have other elements such as, the lightning bolts that are going to be coming down. Those can exit outside of that box, but I want to keep everything kind of relatively contained within this space. Dope! I feel like I've done enough talking for a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a look at my references and just start working. Fun fact, the Ramuh materia, which is Final Fantasy VII, is based off of a materia system, which is new in the JRPG space. And so what you do is think of these really big marbles. They're about this big. And they're these marbles that contain Mako, which is like energy. I feel like the easiest way for me to describe it is these marbles contain and harness magic energy. And there's different types. There's like red and yellow and blue and green. So you collect summon materia. You do not have to collect to finish the game. I'm going to think about what I'm about to say. to finish the game, you do not have to pick up any materia. But there's a couple of materia that are forced upon you. Specifically the summon materia. Also, I haven't had kombucha in so long. This is my favorite kind. It's the raspberry chia kombucha. Oh, it's so good. It makes me so happy. I want to say Leviathan, which is the materia I think you get after Ramuh. I think that one's forced upon you. See, now I'm questioning myself. But Ramuh, all of that being said, Ramuh is permanently missable. There's a couple of materia that are like this, and you can only find it at the gold saucer in a certain area, and if you miss it, you miss it, and sucks for you. So anyway, we're just gonna start drawing him. So Ramuh's like whole thing, in my opinion, that I really, remember him for is his big ol' beard and mustache situation. And the robes, which are like all flowy. And they're like, oh. And since I want to give a sense of the robe being open, that's why I'm putting that shape in there. It's just a little like, the robe has been opened. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I know he's got this big old honker of a nose. I want his hand up here, and then he's got his staff, which is kind of like a flower that comes down. And I don't mind the staff being unreasonably long. That really doesn't bother me. And then I definitely want sort of that situation. Ramuh in his summon animation is also on a hill. It's like, it's like this dirt that like comes up from the ground, and Ramuh's on top of it, and he's got his like thing, and it's like electricity bolts, all that good stuff. So that's what we're doing. Why are people messaging me? Please stop. Okay, so I forgot what I was saying. Anyway, oh yeah, so Ramuh is on this like dirt pedestal that comes up from the earth, and that we'll worry about later, but we are going to block it in. And actually I feel like I want his robes to actually come down farther. Like such. And just FYI, I am referencing only the original Final Fantasy VII Ramuh. So we're looking at the polygon version. We're not looking at the one from the remake. Okay, so there's a couple of you guys can't see it, but I'm looking at my references right now. I feel like there's a couple of paths in which I want to have his electricity bolts show. And then also, I said that I wanted his staff to, kind of graze the top of that border. Okay, so there's this animation takes place when you summon these magical creatures into your fight. So his thunder animation starts off kind of hitting the ground like that, which I think looks really cool. So that might be one option. Another option is that there's like this like bolt of like yellow heat, or like a yellow light, I guess you could say. And then he has electricity kind of coming off. The reason why I don't like that idea is I want this to be self-contained for a t-shirt eventually. So if I want that, I feel like that would be a crucial part of my composition. So I don't think I'm going to use that. But what I am also considering is just sort of that crackling, electricity kind of coming off and down off of him. I feel like that could look pretty dope. maybe have it come out like that. I feel like Smello. Hi, James. My husband's watching my stream. He's usually doing BJJ. Hi, honey. I feel like compositionally, I like the balance of what this could offer. And I think what I might even do is kind of get rid of it here so that I'm basically kind of creating balance as like a figure 8 shape a little bit, rather than creating a square. So I have a lot of information up here and I have information down there, if that makes sense, rather than just taking up the whole thing. The other option is that, you know, this sort of shape could happen with the bolts, and then I have an inverted triangle, and that's also visually really interesting. They're both essentially the same thing. It's just a different combination of shapes, but their spatial relationships are still pretty similar. I think for me, and this is my bias as an illustrator, I find that, God bless you. Are you okay? I find that you can he's okay, good. You could create a lot of visual interest by using a lot of triangles. So, and it works also with his element. So what we're going to do is we're just going to, we're going to take down the opacity on that, and we're going to block out some new electricity shapes. And electricity, you know, like when we think about how we visually want to show something off, when we think of electricity, this is the shape we're thinking about. And I always talk about S curves in my illustration and in my work. So we kind of want, instead of just creating jagged lines, like we kind of want to honor the S curve situation as it kind of comes around in this shape. Maybe like that. Maybe have it come down a little bit. I don't know if I want to maybe have it. No, that's going to be a little too tense. We'll do that. I'm going to turn this off, and we're going to turn that off and see how we feel about that. Yeah, I don't hate that. I think what I also want to do is turn this layer off. What I think I want to do is just add a little bit more to that sort of thunderbolt shape. So now I'm just going to kind of add a little bit to drive this like visual language a little bit more. I don't want... We could do that. And then maybe we'll have maybe this piece wrap forward, but I don't want there to be a tangent there. So we'll do that, and then maybe we'll have like that shape. Maybe have this come down. Let's see. How do I feel about that? Because I do also want it to feel like it's like wrapping around him. And to me, this feels like a good way to accomplish that. And to further sort of that language. Like that. And then what happens if we turn this off? Yeah, I think that that's visually compelling. And then, you know, you can kind of go back in and add like a couple of extra these little things, right? Or maybe wherever you do it, it's kind of in line with where the point of his... My Apple Pencil is dying. I kind of want to update my iPad, but I'm also kind of like, it's fine. It overheats, and it's like, slowly getting slower, but it's also working. And I hate buying new stuff if I don't need it. And what I really want is a new Apple Watch, but I also don't want to spend $300-$400 on like a new Apple Watch because I actually don't need a new app. You know what I mean? Like with phones, I feel like because we use them so much constantly, I could like justify that and be like, yeah, I could spend money on a new Apple Watch or a new phone. But an Apple Watch, like really all that it does, it's like a fancy pedometer. And it like what I got it for is English. What I got my Apple Watch for is for working out. And so I feel like I already do that. The only problem is that I can't really what? Stop. What am I trying to do? Okay. I bought my Apple Watch to work out, and I can work out. The only problem is that it's hard for me to update it because sometimes when I update it, it doesn't want to work anymore. And so I have to uninstall everything and then reinstall it. Or like certain apps won't work, and then I'm like, great, I think I have to uninstall everything and then reinstall and update it. I don't know. It's a big to do, but I'm also like, I don't need a new Apple Watch. I just want my Apple Watch to work. And I feel the same way about my iPad. I'm like, my iPad is fine. I just want it to not overheat. Please. I don't think I'm asking for a whole lot. Okay. So what I'm going to do, rant is over, is do what I always do, which is I'm going to pick a color. It doesn't have to be any sort of color that's related to Ramuh at all. And all that I'm doing is blocking out shapes. And I talk about this in every stream. The reason why I do this is I just realized I didn't block out that other hand. The reason why I do this is I find that my work goes faster, even though I'm doing a lot of talking right now. And I'm able to focus on the things that make sense and are important, which is composition. Everything else can wait. Everything else is not that important. Making sure that things are in the right perspective, that I'm not missing important elements like Ramuh's necklace. Like that stuff is important to be blocking out into everything. Everything else, not as important. Okay, I've blocked that out. So that's why we're just using the studio pen and just slamming in our visual language. And looking at our shapes. And since Ramuh is, in fact, a thunder god, you know what? I'm not going to do this. I'm actually going to do something else. Just to be sure that, like, because I started to say something and I was like, you know what, I actually didn't do this pass. Because Ramuh is a thunder character, and we associate this symbol typically with thunder. And I love S-curves. I think it would behoove me just to kind of take a look at my visual language and make sure that my eye is being led in the correct direction by everything in it. And it is, right? Like I do have that kind of coming through, but I just want to take just a little bit of time just to double check my work. Maybe I want this to be straight and then that comes out like that. And then with his hands and everything. Yeah. So I think I want sort of that thunderbolt shape like that. I feel like that was missing. Okay. Fine. Everything's fine. We're fine. Okay. Now we're going to actually do what I was talking about, which is block out all my shapes. And I'm only doing this for the robe, and we're going to go back in. We're doing it for everything else. We're going to do it for the robe. We're going to do it for his skin. We're going to do it for his hands. We're going to do it for all of the things that we're doing in this illustration. And I also find that this is one of the best ways to also just do rough passes. People always feel like rough passes, they're like, well, what is a rough pass? And what is a sketch pass? And like a sketch pass, you feel like, ooh, that, I did not like that line whatsoever. Hold on. Let's have his shoulders kind of be like that. It feels like it's self-explanatory what a sketch pass is, and it's self-explanatory what a final is, but what the hell is a rough pass or a blocking out pass? And so for me, a rough pass is like you're figuring out your composition, you're putting in the big elements, And everything else can figure itself out down the line. Okay, we're going to rename this Robe. And we're going to do like a skin tone. Or we're going to do his bald head, which is kind of just a round shape. Do I want his little earsies? Yeah, I want the earsies in there. And he's kind of got this sort of shape to his head because he's an old man. And I think I'm also going to put his hand on that as well, because why not? And I think what I want is his hand. I'm trying to think. I feel like the hand is going to be like a... What do I have? This is why a lot of us have like cameras on all the time, or we take photos of ourselves, or we have a mirror. I just kind of want to check my work. Yeah, so I feel like having a finger out is too feminine. But I want it to feel like probably something like that. Nah, that looks too feminine too. And having the thumb out also feels too feminine. So I'm just kind of looking in my camera, trying to see from that perspective. Yeah, I think having the 3 fingers with the knuckles and then the top finger to come up and out. But I feel like the second I stick the finger up, it becomes a little too feminine. Which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, I don't know if that's the direction I want to take this in. And again, I'm going to block it out, and if I hate it, then I can get rid of it. It's not a big deal. So we're going to try that and see how we feel about it. We might actually find that it's just too little information, that it's not going to even matter. And I'm not going to really be able to truly block it out until I put the sticky stick in there, so it doesn't matter at this point. We're going to do, skin underscore F for front. Or not. We'll just have it be there. And then we'll rename this skin dash whatever. Back. So annoying. I hate when they put in functionality that just actually does not help you. We're going to do the same thing for this backhand. And I don't mind that his hand is kind of a claw, because you got to remember, first off, that's what it looks like in the reference. And this is, after all, like a summon. It's like this like strong, kind of beastly, fearsome thing. So having him have a bunch of claws or like spiky hands is not the worst thing that could happen to him. So we're going to do that. And kind of clean that up a little bit. So I'm just kind of thinking in my head right now, do I want to become famous? I could buy followers, primes, and viewers on mountviewers.com. Amazing. Sensational. Blocked. How do I block this person? Block. Goodbye. I don't want to deal with it. I'm thinking in the back of my head the volume of both of his hands as well. So what I'm going to do is actually bring this back out, because I feel like comparatively, the 2 hands, this one's going to be a little bit bigger like that. And maybe even just kind of make the knuckle a little bit more accentuated like that. Bomb. And then put the stick in front. I'm going to make it like a dark color, and that's fine. And if you draw a line and hold, it'll want to become famous. If you draw a line and hold, it'll create a straight line for you. Just FYI. Same thing with like circles and stuff. Oh, Jesus! The sticker! Thank you. I love that whenever you use stickers, it always puts it somewhere near my face too. Like, what's up with that? The first sticker is always the top left-hand corner. And then usually the next one's like somewhere in the middle. I can hear James laughing from down here.
NANI?
Scared the crap out of me. Okay, we're gonna do the orb. Oh, we need to name this Stick. Stick. It's funny, I was talking about stickers in a stream a couple weeks ago. Oh, I'm so sweaty and itchy. And as I'm talking about stickers, somebody slapped me with a nani, but it was so loud. It still haunts me to this day, truthfully. Like, I knew that that's what we were talking about, and it still scared the crap out of me. All right, we're going to do the orb, and I'm going to make it not pink, because then it's not going to stand out. I'm going to make this disgusting. Oh, Jesus. Yay! I'm excited to hit affiliate solely because I can have emotes and stickers. Namely the stickers. Like, I'm just really excited for the affiliate things that, like, can just make your stream really fun. You know what I mean? Because I feel like people get so caught up in, like, the monetization of, like, everything. It's like, well, what's the requirement for affiliate? I have to have a certain amount of streaming, certain amount of hours streamed a month, certain amount of average viewers, and a certain amount of followers. So followers-wise, I'm okay. Because I think the followers is 50. The next hurdle for me is average viewers. So if I could stay at 3 average viewers per stream, or more, then I could hit the next one, which I think is affiliate. And then after affiliate is partner. And that's a whole different bag of worms for, like, I think mostly monetization. I think everything at that point is opened up. It's just monetization works differently or something. I don't really know. I just want stickers and emotes, man. I feel like I'm such a simpleton. I don't care about money. I just don't want to have debt and not worry about stuff. Anyway, we're gonna rename this one Flower. The labels don't really matter to anyone but yourself or the other person that's gonna come into your files. And if you're looking to pursue a professional anything in a creative field, you always want to have good file hygiene, and that is, you know, labeling your layers, not having unnecessary layers, being just all around intelligent about how you choose to build everything will make people like working with you, which I think is really important. Because there's a bunch of different reasons why an employer would want to work with you. And one of them is, like, do they like working with you? And like, that is, like, such a, like, it's, like, such an obscure thing of, like, as a working creative professional. Like, what does it mean for, like, people like working with you? And it's, like, it could be a bunch of things. And I feel like people have this misconception that means that people think you're funny or that you get along with everyone or, like, you're always really nice. And it's, like, that is definitely part of it. Being a pleasant person to be around does influence how people perceive you and whether you're going to get called back for work. So don't get it twisted. Like, it's still very important to be, like, a pleasant person to be around at work. But it's also, like, do you, like, upload your files? Do you name your files? Is it hard to understand your files? Do you deliver stuff when you say you're going to deliver it? Do you deliver it early? Do you know how to establish boundaries? Do you know how to communicate when something's not working? Like, all of those things influence this person is a joy to work with. And if you're fast and you're a joy to work with, if you're reasonably priced, people will want to work with you. And especially if you make a lot of money at your job, you better be doing that level of work. You, like, don't be, you know, showing up to work with, like, you know, this attitude of, like, I'm so amazing, and then you actually start working and they're like, okay, but you don't do any of that, and you actually cause a lot of people a lot of stress. And like the other thing to consider too is like people's productivity that you impact. It's not just like, well, you know, if they said it was delivered on get it to them on Tuesday, so you get it to them Tuesday night. It's like you check in with them on Friday, you let them know Monday, hey, is tomorrow morning okay? And then like you deliver it Friday night or Monday night rather. Like that makes people want to work with you because it's early, it's fast, you're communicating, you're like being transparent about where you are. And you don't necessarily have to be the nicest person in the room. You just have to be good at your job and like not a pain to work with. It's very, very easy. I'm running out of space to write mustache. Thank you. No! I have to rewrite it. Mustache. I hate this. I don't know how to turn it off. And it won't let me. Beard. I just want the keyboard. Like, this is why I don't... This is why people don't update. This is why people don't update. Because you change functionality and you automatically set it to give you this new functionality. And it's like, bro, I never wanted it in the first place. Stop volunteering people for functionality that they did not ask for. It drives me crazy. It makes me mad. I forgot to draw. He has like a little, like he has like a shoulder thing. I don't need that layer. He has like this like shoulder. It's like, whoop. Oh, mother of God. What? Oh, I think it's because I merged layers. It's like it looks like this. And it comes up like that. It's like his wizard's collar or whatever. And then I feel like I can take just like a minute to draw his little face in. So I know that he's got this like long nose that kind of protrudes. He's got the white man nose, right? Like the really high, thin, long nose. And we'll do that. I don't know if I want him to look menacing. Which is why I want to keep this sort of flat language at this part of the eyebrow. But I definitely want him looking down at you. Ooh, that's attractive. Okay, and then I know that he's got some hair too, so maybe we could... What does his hairline look like? Ramuh, why are there no good pictures of you on the internet? You polygonal asshole. Oh, because it's white on white, that's why. I want to say that it looks a bit like this. We'll see. We'll see when we get there. Also, I'm noticing a couple of things that are missing. He has a little bracelet thing that I missed. So we'll pop those bad boys in. And he's got like little clawsies. He's got nailsies. So let's put those in. And then these little bits, these are like, they look like that. They're like little gems. It looks like to me. No earrings. And the inside of his robes are blue. Okay. That's enough information, I think, for now. And then we'll have these kind of like that. And then maybe this is like, I don't know, information that I'll add in. Okay. Sweet. Man, I am swampy. Disgusting. Okay. Right. So let's do the bracelets. We could do those in this yucky orange color. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw them like this. Like a circle. Whee! And then I'm going to race into it when I get there a little bit more defined, but this is just kind of like a cheap, easy way. And it's also really important that, actually this way, it's really important that when you're drawing things like bracelets, collars, hula hoops, necklaces, you're not drawing it. I'm going to do like a little sidebar because I think this is really important. This is something I struggled with into my late 20s as an illustrator. When you're drawing a bracelet, so this is the palm of a hand, this is a thumb, these are your fingers, right? And you have somebody's wrist, and then this is their arm, it's their elbow. Okay. This goes for anything that wraps around any shape or any form. When you're drawing something, do not draw just what you see, but draw what you see. Do not draw what you think you see. I know that's really dumb and confusing what I just said. So I don't want you to draw what you think you see, which is this. When you're drawing like a sleeve or a bracelet, which is this. That's not how bracelets actually sit on people. And depending on the type of bracelet and the force that's exerted on it, the bracelet is going to be posed very, very different ways. So for example, if this arm is just straight up, we don't know anything about what position the hand has come from. All we know is that the hand is straight up. You have to ask yourself a whole bunch of things as you're drawing it. And you got to make sure that the physics that you impart on this part of the body is in relationship to the rest of the body. And this is going to make more sense in a second. I'm just going to stop talking about that for a second. So if we're talking about a bracelet that is around this wrist without any physics or any force on it, there's no gravity, there's no motion, there's no weight, there's no nothing on it. It's just dead centered around the wrist. The bracelet is a circle that is around this form. And so you have, this angle of this wrist. So your bracelet is going to go around it at that same angle. Right? So where things get really spicy is, say, for example, the hand just got raised and it's a charm bracelet. Well, we know that the wrist is about that big. We know that that's how it looks in space, right? This volume. If say the person is raising their hand from the inside out and upwards, the bracelet was down here and now it's moving up here. So now there's force on it. And so now you have to ask yourself, at what position have we caught this bracelet and how much time has passed since the bracelet and the hand have moved? So if we're talking about like a really dynamic character, maybe we've caught them in the middle of raising their hand, the bracelet is going to have a little bit of lag, right? And I'm going to use a different color because you can't really see it. So there's going to be lag because the bracelet is being dragged by this back part of the wrist upwards, right? And so the drag is on the bottom part of the bracelet. So when I raise my hand, it's moving this way. And as I stop moving, the bracelet continues to move this way. So then if it's the same physics, but we've caught it in a different point in time, well, now that the bracelet is catching on this side of the wrist, the bracelet is going to come out that way. Now you can ask yourself another question. How long has this hand been up? So maybe they raised their hand, but they're still holding it. Well, then the bracelet is going to either settle and just move down. Depending on the personality type, maybe it's askew, right? So like all of these things are things that you think about. But at the end of the day, you always want to think about it as a form that goes around. You want to be thinking about the front and the back. So even in a reference, all you see is the front of the bracelet, you also want to be thinking about the back, no matter what the angle is. This is a really long-winded lecture for something that is so unnecessary, but I like talking about this stuff. So that's why when I drew this, I drew these the way that I did. You understand? So that is that. I feel like I've blocked in everything that is... Nope, I didn't block in everything. We're going to rename this to bracelets. I'm going to call it Brack because I know what that means. We could call it brand. That's fine too. If I had better control over what my iPad wanted to do, this would not be a problem. I'm going to call this one collar. I'm going to really have to Google this later and figure out what the hell caused it to behave this way and make it stop. Back to Studio Pen. So I want his collar to fit under his beard, but over his robes and under the bracelet. Oops. Beautiful. And then we also have the necklace. So the necklace is going to run under the mustache, but over the beard. But we're going to do it in this disgusting brown color. Like that. Just do a line. And then we're going to do the little gem bits in a purple because that's also how it is in the reference. And I think actually for this part, we're going to use the lasso tool and just do that. And this. I'm trying to think about tangenting as well. And then maybe have it here. And then fill layer. And we're going to rename this gems. Gem. Gem. Jam. Fine. Honestly, at this point, I'm going to call this necklace. Necklace. Neck ice. Fine. Neck ice is fine. Just stop implementing features that nobody asked for. I'm not asking for a lot out of Apple. All right, so we've blocked out all of our shapes. We hate Apple. Everything is right with the world. So now we're just going to check our work. And do the next step, which is we're going to switch off to my wet pencil brush. I think this lives... There's a couple of brush sets that I have on Gumroad. I think this lives in... Let's see. I know that it lives in... what's it called? Sparkle Poo. Because it's the golden wet pencil. And I want to say it's in Red Hen as the wet pencil. So I use it for both my brush and my eraser. And I'm just going to go in and like implement texture. Please implement texture into the composition. Also erase a little bit into it. This is just a stylistic thing. This is what I do for my illustrations. I like to think that I'm a master at making things look sort of retro or give this appearance of something that's hand-drawn. And so this is my way of doing it, is I block things out into these big shapes. And honestly, that's how you work in watercolor as well. Like you work in big shapes in anything really, and then you refine things as you go along. All right, so we're just going back and forth. Procreate has this really neat feature. If you know that it's there and you use it, you could set up hotkeys that allow you to quickly select and deselect your layers and also colors. And I think that is done through the three finger menu is how you set it. I just find that I work much faster this way because I'm not going in and out of menus. And really, I feel like that's the mark of somebody who really knows a program. And this was told to me by somebody in college. He worked on the Simpsons movie, and he was teaching us 3D. And so I think this was a CAD class, maybe AutoCAD. And he said, you know, you can tell somebody's mastery because they're not worried about menus anymore. And it's not necessarily just hotkeys. Hotkeys are very important, and they will make or break you, especially in like big programs like Maya and Adobe. But Photoshop, Clip Studio Paint, whatever it is that you're using. But it's also having an understanding of where certain things live. So if you do have to go into menus, you're not kind of getting mired in, where is this thing again? Or, you know, you're not losing time, and you can I think there's another instructor that called it Svetlana mode. So there's like RoboCop and Svetlana. And as an artist, you're kind of balancing both. And so RoboCop is like, are the proportions right? Does this make sense spatially? How's my composition? Is this, you know, the right perspective? And then Svetlana is like effortlessly making things beautiful, really worried about, you know, the appearance of how things look. And you have to be both. You got to be RoboCop and you got to be Svetlana. I think it was Shaddy. I think Shaddy said that, the RoboCop Svetlana thing. And it's something that you're going to contest with as a creative professional your whole life. Sometimes you find yourself getting stuck and you realize you're in too much Svetlana mode, and sometimes you realize you're in too much RoboCop mode. And I find that RoboCop makes my work better in certain ways, and Svetlana makes it better in others, and you gotta have both. You gotta have both. You gotta have RoboCop and Svetlana. I hate what is going on over here. Okay, so we have something that's called tangenting, and that is when you have visual information that draws your eye to a certain space, because your eye's trying to figure out what the F is going on in that particular area. So what I'm referring to, and again, this is why we stay on the blockout stage for so long. In the last like 20 minutes, it actually starts to look good. We have a little bit of tangenting here. We have a whole lot of tangenting here, and it's a little bit right there. It is driving me crazy. So I want to go back in and be sure that I fix those things. So I think here, I'm just going to get rid of that. Here, I think what I need is, and you don't really see it. You don't really see it in the reference that I'm working on, but I think I need to have like the back of his collar there, and that'll solve sort of some of this tangenting. I hate that. I hate that there's like this little slice of something that really irritates the crap out of me. And then there's also this space here. So I don't quite know how I want to resolve all of that right now. I don't know if the solution, I have a little bit of it here. I feel like it's just not, it's like too tight, and it's not tight enough, and I'm like noticing it, and it's driving me crazy. So let me just fix it really quickly. And I'm just going to use this like dark red that I have just to kind of figure out what the hell I want to do here. I feel like that works, but then I have like this, it's really tight right there. So maybe I rotate this out just a little bit, but then perspective wise, it doesn't really work. So I think what I'm going to do is get rid of this bracelet, and I'm going to place it lower on his arm, and I think that's going to really help. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to grab, it doesn't really matter what color I use, but I'm going to put that bracelet here and erase it there. That bothers me so much less. Like the silhouette, and like my eye just kept going. I'm like, what is going on here? Okay, I feel so much better. So since we're already on this layer, I'm going to fix sort of the look. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up just a little bit more. Nope, I lied. I'm going to close it up just a bit more. I thought opening it would help. It does not. So we're going to close it because I don't want to draw too much attention to it, right? So like that's the other, it's part of the Svetlana RoboCop thing, because Svetlana intuitively knows like, oh, like that looks good. Like that just like, like that's salty, crispy, crunchy, tasty, chocolatey, right? Svetlana knows that. RoboCop's like, oh, this is like bad for my teeth, so I shouldn't eat too much of it, but I'll indulge, right? And so like, you just have to kind of run this like midway game. That feels so much better closing that little shape up. You have to run this like process between the two of them, and they're like both yelling at you at the same time, and they're both trying to achieve the same thing, but it could be done different ways. That feels so much better. I'm so happy I did that. Okay, we're gonna move on to this guy, and I'm gonna erase a little bit into, because that's where his nose is. I'm just gonna do that, and I kind of want like a little bit of like, you know, like little old man hairs. I think that's cute. have his little old man hairs kind of sticking out. So the reference is Final Fantasy VII's Ramuh, right? And it's the original, which is very, very blocky. There's like probably less than 100 polygons on that whole model. Which was like, I remember seeing commercials for Final Fantasy VII and like, man, the like, you know what, I'm going to do that because that was just the tangent of just like that little slice was irritating me. So this is the solution for that. I remember like doing summons in the game, like when I played the game as a kid, because I thought that they looked so cool. Like that was like the best part. And I would just waste so much MP because I just wanted to see these like big cinematic moving things, because like before Final Fantasy VII you didn't have a whole lot of that. That wasn't really a thing that you had. Just kind of cutting into that space. Like I don't mind that there's a little bit of tangenting there, but it was a little bit too much. And all of this is going to be light too. It'll make sense in a second. More than a second, but like a couple of whiles. So I'm just doing my best to honor the original flavor, I guess you could say, of Ramuh and Ifrit. And sort of, if you go back into the stream history, you'll see Chocomog and Shiva and Ifrit. And I made some choices, right? My wrist is getting tired just from doing that in that position, so I'm just switching it around. I made some choices that I felt like, even though it may not necessarily be straight from canon, visually it makes more sense to do it the way that I did it, and I'm not sorry. So that is that. Hi, Mocap, how are you? Vibes. Welcome. I haven't been streaming in a while, so happy to see you. All right, so I feel like I don't hate that, but I might hate it later. So we'll see how that turns out. I want to go back to the robes and just kind of, oops, wrong color. Just soften that just a little bit. It was just a little too crispy for me. All right, we've done that. We've done this. All right, the next thing is I'm just going to erase into these little gemstones because I want the texture of the brush. First time I saw your stream is in 2019. Oh my God, it's been that long. I think I started streaming right before the pandemic hit. I'm so happy to see you again. I'm okay. I'm like trying to pay off my student loans, trying to lose weight, fearing the apocalypse, just like anybody else, I guess. How about you? It's been like forever. I hope you're healthy, hopefully. Feels like anybody getting COVID at this point is just kind of like, y'all, like, why, like, what's with the FOMO? You couldn't wait? Couldn't hold out? I think, honestly, like, we've all, like, relaxed so much that, like, it makes sense. Like, I don't really, I can't say I hate on anybody. Doing well. Nice seeing you again. Yay, I'm so happy. Party. Feels like anybody getting sick at this point is just it's just like bad luck, right? Because like everyone's relaxed so much, and as they should. Like, I don't think we need to like maybe go back to living our lives the way that we did in 2019. Like, there should definitely be this sort of ear to the ground sort of energy, and mindfulness when you're out in public spaces surrounded by people you haven't seen and or people you don't know. But yeah, I feel like people getting sick at this stage, it's kind of like, man, that sucks. That's just unlucky. Because what else are you going to do, you know? What is this dark? Oh, I see. It's the necklace back there. I was like, I know that that's not on this layer. All right. Oh, will you do artwork for Pride Month? I've seen some art streamers doing art for Pride Month. I wasn't planning on it. I have a whole bunch of thoughts on that. I'm bi. I was just at Pride Sunday. I've been out since I was like 16. So for me, Pride, and I live in LA, so for me, Pride doesn't impact me, I think, the way that it impacts a lot of other people. Just because I've lived it, and I just feel like I don't know. Maybe I'm like that guy now at parades that's like, ew, don't be cringe. You knew with my hair? Hell yeah. But yeah, especially like the last 2-3 years, there's been like this really aggressive corporate push and like rainbow washing. And so I don't want to do a pride stream because so many people are doing it and it's like so much gets lost, I feel like. So I feel like if I did do a pride thing, I would want to do it with mindfulness, and maybe I would take time, maybe I would do a portrait of maybe something from Stonewall, maybe Harvey Milk, maybe Warhol, like, something like that. I think if I do a stream, it'll be something like that, right? Like, I really want to come at it from a place of like teaching the children, right? And like educating people, because otherwise it's just like performative clickbait, like corporate BS. And even as a queer person, I think that it's not our labor and our responsibility to educate our allies, but I think it's our labor and our responsibility to educate people, younger gays and people that we influenced in our professional lives. So yeah, I'll consider it. Now that you've brought it up, I feel like I should consider doing something. And if it's not part of my like sort of Wednesday series, then I should definitely include it. So thank you for that. Thank you for the inspiration. We're gonna have to now I gotta do something. I do like the idea of doing a portrait of like a famous gay, or just a famous inspirational figure, or somebody maybe that people didn't know was gay. I don't know. I'm gonna have to have a good long think. The more I look at this beard, the more I hate it. I want it. See, this is one of those moments. Sorry, I don't mean to whiplash the direction of the conversation. This is one of the reasons why I think it's so important to keep things in the blockout stage for a little while, just so that like you can kind of really take a look and examine your work and then be like, no, this is not it, fam. You know what I mean? And you can take some liberties with what you were doing. And I thought what I was doing was cute, and then I like came back to it and I was like, this is not it. It will never be it, because I am what? Sickening. Okay. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to I'm gonna have to have a good think on that. Maybe I'll do Sally Ride. I know Sally Ride was closeted. Even though she had a life partner until her death, she was not out, because to this day, Sally Ride is the only person in NASA, or former NASA, that was out about their sexuality. And for the longest time, Sally was married to a man, but she had a life partner that was female. Sally was gay or bi, but I'm pretty sure she was gay. And nobody really knew until her memoirs were released in after her death. And it was like a thing. It was like a big thing. It was just like, Sally Ride is gay. And I think that we forget that like we are surrounded by people that maybe not necessarily have the privilege, the agency, the ability to be out for a whole variety of reasons. It could be their family. It could be where they live. It could be their industry. It could be a person of interest in their space. And there's so much stigma that's still attached unnecessarily to people's sexuality and gender identity as well. So I think it's really important to, normalize introducing yourself with pronouns and being like, hi, my name is such and such. My name is Katya. My pronouns are she, her. Just so that, the next time you encounter somebody else in that space and they say, hi, my name is Alex. My pronouns are they, them. There isn't this like pressure or need to be, well, why are you introducing yourself with your pronouns? Like, why are you they, them? It's like, you also flag yourself as an ally, even though you're obviously cisgendered. I did not mean to do that. Even if you're like presenting yourself as a feminine person or a femme, and you are cisgendered, I still think it's important to mark yourself as an ally and be like, hey, like, this is me, and I am a safe person, and this is a safe space, and like, I'm here. And it's okay to like come to me for allyship. I think it's really important. So yeah, we're gonna see now. We have to do it. We're gonna do a stream. We're gonna do a stream. We have to do a stream. It's going to happen. Okay, so everything is gonna be cream colored, which kind of irritates the crap out of me, but that's fine. We're gonna make the background color a light brown for now. No, that's a yucky space. We'll make it dark brown. And we're gonna make everything else cream. And his bracelets are that could be like a dark purple. I feel like the staff could be like a dark purple. I noticed that like they do a lot of purple. Like everything that's like people have dark clothes, it's like actually purple in the game. There's very few pure black things in Final Fantasy VII, and that should be a lesson to all of you about color and how you use color in your work. I'm gonna duplicate this because it's not fully opaque. Using pure black in any medium, especially in video games, black has a tendency to not play nice with like bounce back light and things like that, layers, filters. So it's best to use like a really dark color. It could be like a 5% red and then the rest of it's black, but it allows that shape to pick up color. So that's just the way math works. You know? All right. Now that we've made this entire thing completely illegible, I'm going to scratch the back of my sweaty neck. Oh, so sweaty. I'm like, because I want my hair down, but I also don't want it on my neck, so I'm just going to kind of clip it up. Ooh, and I got some cold kombucha. Cold kombucha. Alright, we're gonna come back into this bee. We're gonna take this like bluish grayish color I have and just really gently kind of buff it in. And I'm experimenting. And I feel like for his robes, I kind of want it to flow down and out. Something a bit like that. Definitely want that back bit to be a darker blue. And then we're going to do the same thing to the collar, kind of that front part, right? Because as the collar curves forward, it's going to be darker in this front part here. So we're going to have it be darker like that. And then for the beard we're actually going to shade with this light brown, but then we're going to take it up into this sort of register and really gently buff it in like that. Because I kind of want to keep it a bit pure. Like it doesn't have to be a whole thing. We can even use this yellowy color. Yeah, you know what? I'm not hating the yellow. I feel like, and especially because like, yeah, we're going to do that. Okay, so we're going to use this yellowy color and buff it in just a little bit. And then this is a texture brush that is in one of my brush sets. It's called, not that one. I lied. It's this one from Red Hen, and it's the Hen Fuzzy Line Brush. I use that. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but I use that to create this sort of texture in my illustrations. We're going to do the same thing with the mustache. Now you'll notice that it's hard to see, but it's there. It's a little bit darker in this upper area, and it's a little bit darker here, but it's a little bit lighter in the center through his beard. So with the mustache, we're going to do the reverse. Wherever it's lighter on the beard, it's going to be darker on the mustache, and then vice versa. Then we're going to go back in and put that texture brush in, just to give a little bit of zhuzh. And then I kind of want to go back into his robes, and I'm going to do a clipping mask. And we're going to go back in with this sort of blue color. I don't want it to be that blue. And we're going to tell it to multiply. So the way that multiply works is that it looks at, that is not the right color that I want. The way that multiply works is that wherever there's light information, it'll apply that color on top of it, with the exception of pure black. So it'll always darken and add color everywhere except for wherever there's black in your composition. Okay, so we've done that. I'm gonna go into the like bracelet bits, and I'm gonna do sort of a similar treatment. So you can see here it starts to move a lot faster. Yeah, something like that. And that's because like I get to do sort of Svetlana stuff, right? Like I gotta be Svetlana. I'm like, hey, like that doesn't look good. That's cool. We'll just do this instead. Okay, we could do that. And this is kind of like the area where you could really start to play around with your stuff. So it's really important that long before you reach this point in your work, you've kind of hit all of the things you need to hit when it comes to the blocking out. Make sure that everything is kind of baked in, all of your shapes, all of your forms, your composition, your volumes, your perspective, everything is tight, so that when you're doing colors and sort of like the zhuzhy stuff, like sparkles and hair and like eyeballs, that stuff goes super fast, because that stuff is really, it's like popcorn. It's like easy to do, easy to understand, easy to put in. The hard stuff is the stuff that people always want to skip over and like not do quickly. And so I really want to encourage people to be sure that they're not doing that they're taking their time, just blocking in the eyes. And then I'm going to do a clipping mask for the hair, and eyebrows. I'm using the side of my pencil to kind of, you'll see it in a second. I'm using the side of my pencil because that takes down the opacity, to kind of just like gently etch in the sort of information of his hair on the side. Like that. And then we're going to alpha lock that, and we're going to grab, I think it's the same color blue as everything else, his ivy balls. So it's going to be this sort of color. We'll put it here. And then for the orb, we're gonna do like this hotter sort of red, like that. And maybe a little bit of this purple, just to incorporate like other colors into here. And maybe for his robes, just like a hint of that purple at the bottoms. Maybe kind of at the edge of his robe. It's super subtle. But the reason why we do that is because you don't want colors to just exist in a vacuum in your composition. Light bounces around. And so it's very important to take the time to integrate the red from the orb into these little medallion bits. And it doesn't have to be like red. It could be like 20% of that red into that purple bit. And now it feels like this is part of the same universe. It's all being lit under the same thing. So take the time to do that. It'll make your stuff much stronger. All right, so now for this thing, I feel like we could do the sort of purpley reddish color. So we could try that. Let's see how we feel about that. I don't want to do, I was thinking about doing this sort of golden color, but the problem is that that's so close to his like skin tone. I think I like the idea of doing this like reddish, purpley color, and then maybe we use that texture brush and we kind of move it through the staff a little bit. And maybe so that it doesn't get lost in the background, we'll take this like hotter purple and we'll just kind of eke it in right there. Just a little, like I'm just like barely trying to touch it, just to create a little bit of space. And we're going to do a little bit more for the background, but just we want to create a little bit of space. Otherwise it's just, there's a bit of tangenting going on here. It's like, well, what the hell is going on here? This doesn't make any sense to me visually, right? So the next step, this is my favorite part. I love going in with multiply and color dodge on its own layer, and I'll take like maybe, let's let's see, probably a golden color. This will make sense in a second. I typically like, because I feel like I'm like processing this, I typically like to do my shadows or my darker information in a contrasting color from the light. And so I'm thinking about what the light source is, and the light source is the electricity, and the electricity is going to be blue. So I think I'm going to want to go on the opposite end for the multiply, which is going to be like a golden rod, which is like coming from here. All right, so we're going to turn on our sketch layer, and we have multiply on, and we have it on the wet pencil, and we're just going to go through and block out, carve out some of these elements in his face, in his ears, maybe go through these like little gems like that, bring that finger forward. Yep. Okay, I just wanted to be able to see those little elements, right? So now here's what I'm thinking about, right? Like we're balancing Svetlana and RoboCop. I'm maximizing legibility, and making sure that like it makes sense that, oh yes, this element is behind this element. Oh yeah, this has light information that's hitting on this side, but it's not on the other. So that's kind of where my head's at this stage. And so I'm kind of, making these little, I think that would be a little too dark for that area. We'll go through here, kind of carve that out, give him a little bit of shadow there. Maybe I'll take the color of the robes and kind of carve that out. Just make it a little bit more apparent that those are his robes indeed. There's also, I just realized, the inside of his robe is going to be showing here. So let's put that in. So I know that for the lightning and thunder and all that good stuff, that's going to be the inside blue color of his robes as well. So we'll kind of do that sort of shape. And then we also need that color on the colors. And you know what? We're going to multiply that because I kind of like, it's so subtle, but I like that little texture information that's in there. Like I want to keep it. So we're going to do multiply for that. We're going to do the same thing for the collar. We're going to clip mask into that. Probably bring down my brush size. And so the collar on this bad boy looks like this. Probably like that because it's carving behind him. And that helps to kind of be indicative that that's where the collar is. And it's not just like this shape behind him. It kind of breaks that space up a little bit. I do have a little bit of tangenting happening, which is not intentional. So I'm just going to kind of open this up. So typically when you have tangenting like that, you can go one of two directions. You can either close the gap or open the gap. And I feel like for me, I'm okay with opening the gap because it's a light color and a light color. That will make more sense in a second. But there's TLDR. It's fine because of the contrast information that's there. Come back in here, kind of fix that. Kind of want to carve out this part too. Maybe give him the center of his eyes like that. Maybe just a little bit of shadow under where this necklace is. Like this. Okay, and then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this like dirty white dog color in his beard. And I'm going to add some information to separate both the beard from the mustache and also give you a little bit of information on like what kind of a beard is it, right? Because it's insinuated that it's kind of a long flowing beard. And so just having a little bit of these lines in here gives a little bit of that. Having that also coming in from the shadow there helps quite a bit. Maybe we'll add just a little bit of like this blue kind of there just to separate this a little bit, right? This sort of bounce back even. So we could do the bounce back light, but it's bouncing back darker, which it won't let me do because it's actually quite dark. So maybe we'll do an orange. That won't show up either because it's so light. This darker brown, maybe nothing. That's fine. All right. I feel like what's missing is sort of, Oh, I was working on the wrong layer this whole time. Okay, I was like, All right, we're back in business. So remember, in reflective objects, you not only have bounce back light, but you have a bounce back of the absence of light. So what do I mean by that? When I get my hand closer and closer to this light source, I have bounce back light, right? But if I have a glass or anything in front of it, even another hand, you guys can't really see it, but the light that bounces on my hand is bouncing into the camera, bouncing out of your monitor into your eyeball. That is bounce back light. Light bounces. That's what it likes to do. So when you have a red shirt next to a white shirt, the white shirt is going to look pink and the red shirt is going to look a little bit lighter because of the way that light works. That is the TLDR on all of that. So when there is an absence of light and you have a very reflective surfaces bounce off light. So if you have a lack of light somewhere, which is like where crevices are, or there's folds or shadows, you want to be sure that that's being reflected in that surface as well. I hope all of that made sense because I'm not going over it again. Okay, I'm just now realizing my man needs some like dark fingernails. So I think what I want to do for his fingernails is I'm going to grab this like darker blue color and just kind of make it indicative that it's in there, but I'm not going to go all out. I just realized this for some reason was separated on 2 different layers. It's fine, but it annoys me. And we're doing this because the reference, right? Like the reference, he has blue nails, so we're giving the man blue nails. Okay. I forgot that I wanted to do like a little bit of like a. I feel like that's a little too dark. Let's pull from this mustache and give a little bit more information there. We could even go into the necklace and make it a little bit darker. So I was talking earlier about how you don't want to have pure black in your composition. The reason for that also is you'll notice as I'm putting in these lines, this multiply, I am getting pure black. So if it happens as a result of multiply, as a result of this, then that's fine. But you don't want your entire composition to be basically like strong-armed and throttled by black, because if you did what I'm doing on pure black, multiply doesn't work, color dodge doesn't work. So please don't do that. Okay. I want to do color dodge next, but I'm going to wait. This is going to be actually my thunderbolts. And we're going to do them in just normal mode for now. We're going to do them in blue. And turn that on. Okay. And I think I want sort of this shape. Right? So remember, Ramuh is the god of thunder. And I actually don't know what Ramuh is like in real life. I know Final Fantasy pulls a lot from like mythology and stuff. I don't think I actually know what Ramuh is. Is he a god? Is he a deity? Is he a being? Is he Grecian? I wanna know, what is Ramuh? My desire to sing sometimes outweighs my memory that I am not a very good singer. I am very sorry. I just start singing. Sometimes I'll just like start singing songs from like other songs. So I'll just like start making things up. Probably because I'm a trash panda. I don't think I'm going to want to do that. So I'm just going to do this. Because we're going to have tangenting if I put that line there. I don't think I accounted for that earlier when I was doing that area. So I want the general shape to follow these big lines that I blocked out, but I wouldn't mind kind of taking a little bit of liberties, just a little bit, like a small like a souvenir size Statue of Liberty kind of liberties. Because I want it to feel a little bit more thunderous, you know? So I feel like the way that I'm going to achieve that is by doing what the hell I want and what feels good. And I feel, again, like that, I feel like that's the Svetlana, right? Because RoboCop is going to be like, no, you have to do exactly what you did in your sketch. And I'm like, no, RoboCop, you can't tell me what to do. You're just a cop. All right, so I feel like pretty happy with that. So we're going to turn off our sketch layer. Yeah. So since this is going to be a light source, I want this to be color dodge so that you could do screen as well. So that wherever it overlays on top of my composition, it's going to have that. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to take it off of color dodge. I'm going to put it to normal. And I'm going to do like just a little bit of a Gaussian blur. See how I feel about that? Right? Like that feels like it's vibrating with light a little bit more. And then what I could do also is I could go into this layer. Oh, that was the color dodge. That was not intended. That was not intentional. There we go. I want this layer to be blurred. There we go. I know it's a slight difference, but it matters. It matters to me. It matters to me. All right. And I think what I want to do is I'm going to alpha lock this. And I'm going to take this like hotter sort of blue and just really gently buff it in just to have a little bit of variety in the color. All right. And now that we've done that, we're going to create a new layer, and we're going to do color dodge, and we're going to be using this sort of blue that we've been using for everything else. And this is like always my favorite part. We're going to paint in light information. Aww. And we could even do sort of that. I don't know if I want it to be like a round, because it's like, it's electricity. So maybe that will work better. Like that, right? Because it's an orb. It's going to reflect it pretty accurately. Definitely want it on the top of his noggin. A little bit in the ivy ball. Maybe a little bit on the nose. And remember that, like, when you do this, don't just be like putting it on the top of everything and then calling it a day. Like, really think about it. Like, the way that your nose is shaped. It's going to happen to me that I'm always going to think that the very front part of the nose is going to be where it's going to bounce off light. But that's because I have a button nose. If you look at my nose, the most farthest point is always going to be this little button nose, and it faces up. So if there's a light source above me, my button nose is going to catch it right there, right? Maybe a little bit of the bridge. If somebody has a busted nose, we're talking about somebody with a broken nose, like Owen Wilson, he's got like a shoebox, like Barbie's shoebox is like up in his nose. And so when light hits his nose, and people that have different sized noses from my own, the nose comes out a little bit. The nose bridge is different. So there's going to be a light that's going to get caught there. Ramuh's nose is a white Nordic man's nose. And so they tend to have that bridge up there. So it's actually that light information. I know it's so small and it's like not a big deal, but that light information is really important because that tells me he has a high bridged nose, which is very different than putting the highlight at the very tippy top. So it's really important when you're designing these things that you're like considering your own anatomy and that you're not being biased, right? Like you really want to be sure that you're like taking these things into consideration and that you're not projecting your anatomy onto your characters. And you will see that if you look really closely at Glenn Keane or Andreas Deja's animations. So Glenn Keane worked on The Little Mermaid. He worked on Beauty and the Beast, right? Like he's considered like a master animator, sort of our modern times. You see a lot of his face in Ariel and in The Beast. Why? Because he's looking at himself in a mirror, and it's natural. Every artist does it, but sometimes you have to be aware and like sometimes it's not necessarily going to work. I think for expression it's totally fine, but like when you're doing things like I'm designing a white Nordic man's nose, I need to be mindful that I'm designing and that information that I'm putting down is going to accurately reflect that nose. Okay. Those robes. All right. So there's one last pass. And this is what you know what we forgot? We forgot the floor. The thing that he stands on. The ground. So Ramuh comes up on this like weird pedestal thing that just like erupts out of the earth. And it looks a bit like this. And we're going to go in and clean it up a little bit. Looks a bit like that. And it's like orangey. It's like orangey and brown. Okay, so we're going to alpha lock it. And we're going to grab sort of this big watery brush I have. We're going to pull a little bit of that purple. Oops. We're going to pull a little bit of the purple. And we're going to pull a lot of bit of this orange right here. And done. Like, we don't need to overdo it. Not necessary. Like, I don't want you looking at that part of the composition. I'm not really worried about that part of the composition. I might even make it a little bit darker so that it blends in with the background. Like, I do not want you to really look at that area. So don't call attention to it. I'm also going to take a little moment. Yeah, nope, we're not going to do that just yet. So this is just kind of like final checks. What I'm about to say is very important, and a lot of people that start off in design, and even people that have been working for many years, they don't think about this. And I keep bringing this up, and people don't listen to me, and then I have to like physically show it to them, and they're like, oh, okay, this is how your eyes work. You have two sets of things that exist in your eyeballs. You have cones, you have rods. They transmit the light information that comes into your eyeball and process it, and it's like, it's this type of light, there's this much of it, right? So that's what your cones and your rods do. You, as a human being, tend to perceive value, which means the amount of light, first, and you're more sensitive in that way than you are to color. So people with color blindness, their ability to see intensity of light is not impacted quite as much as you would think, but they have a little bit harder time processing hues because of the way that their eyes work, right? So all of that being said, every time you feel like when you're working in color and you're like, everything's muddy, I don't understand what's going on, I don't understand why it's broken, I don't understand how to fix it, this is what I want you to do. You're going to go in, you're going to create a new layer. This is in Procreate. It's a little different in Photoshop. In Photoshop, you have what's called a black and white adjustment layer. So you would just do that. You could do it this way too. Pure black, pure gray, pure white, doesn't matter. On its own layer, you're going to go in and you're going to tell it to go to hue. Okay? And this is what it's going to give you. You're going to create a second layer. And that layer, is going to be a luminosity layer. And even though I've been working professionally for over a decade, I still do this consistently across the board for all of my work because I find it to be incredibly helpful. All right, we've created a hue layer and a luminosity layer. Stay in the luminosity layer. You're going to take your brush, and now you're just going to take a good hard look at your composition. And you're going to ask yourself, what information is getting lost? Am I able to look at the important things in the composition? So I would say the important things in the composition is his body, his face, his pose, the light elements, making sure that volumes are separated. So where I would say we're having issues is this little line right here. I definitely want to be sure that it's clear that there's a difference between the rod that he's holding and the background. They're about the same level right now, which I do not like. So I'm going to add a little bit of here's how luminosity layers work. Luminosity layers only look at the value or how bright or dark something is, but the color information is untouched. So when I'm going through here, I'm grabbing luminosity at different areas and putting that in to break apart sort of the hand from the thing that holds the orb. I'm going to go in and I'm going to be sure that the bracelet is separated a little bit. His head is getting lost. So we're going to go in and we're going to make it darker because his head is the part that I want you to be looking at, right? I want it to pull forward. I could even grab a little bit of this really dark color and just really kind of carve that in there. Maybe even give his pupils just like a little bit of a tap and kind of fill in this sort of area here so that his eyes will pop out. Maybe start to grab a little bit of that color, that value. Really make this make more sense. I could take a little bit from his forehead, start to kind of separate out his robes from his mustache, right? And again, this is only impacting the values on the layers that are below it. And that's why this is like the pro tip of the day, because we don't do enough of this. We don't proofread our work and then we're like, well, why is it not working? And then everything you do doesn't seem to make it work. And it's like the reason for that is because you didn't proof it. You didn't proof to make sure that your values are working. So this whole area is a goddamn mess. So we're going to kind of come through and really try to make sure that it's like clear. Like this is his mustache right here. Even though the lightning bolt is there, like I really want to be sure that that's obvious. I feel like that's okay. That's fine. Okay, this feels a little bit more better. This feels better for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over just a little bit more. I'm actually going to take off drawing guide because at this point I don't need it. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to check and see. You see how much of a difference that makes? Just in his face alone. Turning luminosity on and off. Okay, so now we're going to turn off hue. And now we're going to toggle luminosity. It's a night and day difference. So if you feel like when you're doing your work and you find that stuff's not reading the way you want it to read, be sure that you're checking for this, because this tends to be the thing that kills everybody, is that they're not looking at their levels, they're not looking at luminosity, and this is what ends up happening to them. So the one last thing I want to do, I think I want to grab this color back here, this sort of like golden rodish color that's happened to exist in my composition. I want to use it in the background, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the selection of that layer, turn hue back on, and then I'm just going to really gently apply it. Whoop. But I'm trying to avoid confusing sort of my composition, right? Like I feel like if I start to apply this back here, information is going to get lost because of precisely what we just talked about, right? We could do like a little bit of like a little boop, right? Like that's fine. Even just like a little bit of an afterglow. We can add texture just to kind of show like, right, like electricity's cackling. You can do all that good stuff, but you really don't want to mess with your values too much. So that's why I recommend doing this, just to kind of double, triple check. Then turn off hue once more. And there you go. You can even go back in and you could alpha lock that. And what you could do is you could, bring sort of a little bit of this blue back and then be like, okay, how do I feel about that? Is it still working, right? So you could still go back and like double check your work. I think the one last thing that I want to do is my eye keeps going here because I have a high degree of contrast, and that is not what I want. So there's a couple of different ways that I can handle this. I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to grab that luminosity, and this is going to become a luminosity layer, and just kind of run that through the center. Just to kind of minimize the amount of contrast that's there. And then I'm probably going to want to do that also to his beard. So we'll clip mask into that, and we'll tell it luminosity. And just like a little bit. Using sort of the side of my brush. And then I'm going to buff it just a little bit. So hopefully that reads a little bit better. So we're going to turn the hue layer back on. Yep, and it's totally fine. I know that, like, in theory, it's kind of scary and it looks a little, like, weird. We're going to definitely have to buff that purple out. But I think that it's worth it to take the time. Sorry, I'm trying to get back to this color that I had. I think it's worth it to take the time to correct your colors, to correct your values. There we go. I feel like that works even better. Hi! Thank you so much. Thank you for saying that, for being here, and for saying that you love my art and that it's cool. I really appreciate it. I'm always like so embarrassed every time people compliment me. I'm like, thank you. Thanks, bye. Thank you so much. Cool. So I think we're here, fam. Like, well, this is it. Like, we have reached the end of sort of what we were trying to accomplish. Again, I think it's really important that you take the time to really examine your work, make sure that everything is reading, make sure that, you know, things are exactly where they need to be, proportion-wise, light, that you're telling a story through your work and the way that elements are placed on your characters, considering how gravity and motion is affecting, behavior and performance is affecting, robes, clothing, hair, all that good stuff. So, yeah, this is it. This is the end of Wednesday night's Final Fantasy VII stream. I did a little outro using last week's video. So I hope that you guys are taking care of yourselves. I hope that you're happy and healthy, and I hope that you enjoy the outro that I created for you. Bye. Absolutely, we're gonna go out using the Party Parrot filter yet again.